Hello everybody, welcome back to my chess adventures here. Yesterday I messed around with Windows Media Encoder and tried to play a game on that, and it just completely borked up my system and lost the video, and I'm never using that program again. So today I played this game right here, and I'm getting ready to go over it real quick before I seek. It was a win. I have changed my formula on FICS to only get a little bit higher rated players. So yesterday I got a higher rated player than I am, a 1631 rated player, and I won fairly easily, even though I was distracted and annoyed by Windows Media Encoder fouling up, and also by the fact that I was discussing on my video, this is the game, I was discussing on my video how right here I was going to play Bishop D3, and this was I was just talking to you guys basically about how I was going to play Bishop D3 instead of Knight C3 to protect E4, then I gave the reason that Knight C3 would block a potential advance of C4, which I would like to do because I like to get a big pawn center when they're not contesting it at all. So as I was saying, I would like to play Bishop D3 instead of Knight C3 for C4 later. I moved C4, and it was just a completely absent-minded thing. I did it on video, and I kind of, in a way, I'm a little bit happy that that particular disaster was lost to Windows Media Encoder's foul up, but it happened, so I'm putting it on video here. And of course, he takes the free pawn, and now I'm just down a pawn. So it was silly. But the rest of the game went much better than that did, and I'm just going to step through it very quickly here. I don't need to protect e4 anymore, so I just brought the light square bishop to e2, and he's taking this restrained approach to the center, and tucking the queen out of the way so I can actually, I was thinking about trying to push d5 at some point. So I was getting the queen out of the way in case I wanted to get my rook over to d1. And then he does this g5 thing, which I think compromises his king's position if he wants to castle kingside quite a bit. And now he appears to be clearing the way to castle queenside instead because of this g5 thing, which I can sort of try to stop by playing b4. Now, if he does castle queenside here, I think my pawn army on the A, B, C, and D files is going to be quite formidable. And he does it anyway, which I thought was a big surprise. So a4. And at this point, his attack is pretty slow, and he's attacking three healthy pawns on F, G, and H, while I'm attacking a weakened pawn on B6 here. So a5 is going to be the correct move to attack that position, and he's still taking a lot of time to get his pawns down the board. Meanwhile, I've got the A file now, and this doesn't really do much. Can lock it up. A little bit afraid of rook h3 here, but it isn't terribly concerning because his other pieces can't get there very quickly. For instance, his dark square bishop is blocking the d8 rook. The queen is being blocked in by the knight. His pieces can't get there. Now his bishop on b7 is pretty good, but if things get dicey, I could always just take it before it gets too hairy over there, since I've got the rook looking at it. Moving on, he's trying to get his queen into the battle, and I want to get rid of that pesky thing on b7, while also protecting g2 and kind of knifing into his king's position. So now I've kind of locked down my king side a little bit more. He doesn't have the key defender of the light squares on his king side, and it's time to bust things open.
Check.
So it kind of goes crazy here for a bit with lots of attacking moves and lots of things hanging in the air. And now rook c7 is going to be a big deal. He kind of counterattacks my rook, but I probably could have played something like rook a8 here. I don't know. I didn't even really look at it because I thought attacking my rook here seems to be playing into my hands because I can just move it over to a3. And this is pretty deadly. I would say this is completely lost for black at this point. And black here makes another really critical mistake. There's a mate in 5 at this point, which I took 30 seconds or so to double check. But
Check.
The mate in 5 just goes like this.
Check.
The rook sack on a8. Black resigned right here, but as you can see, this is forced.
Check.
And he can interpose the knight.
Check.
But it doesn't matter. And then we've got two different mates to choose from.
Check.
So that mate in 5 I spotted fairly quickly, and black spotted after I started the combination, I guess. But it was all over at that point. So that was yesterday's game. I don't really want to take a huge amount of time to analyze it since this is a live video, but since the video was lost yesterday, I thought I'd show it to you real quick. All right, so taking a look at this stuff over here, I have 16 games played now, 13 wins and 3 losses. That's pretty good. Hopefully I've got like 3 of the last 4 games have been 1550 and higher, so I've been getting higher rated players lately. My graph is looking pretty good here, all the way up to my current rating, which is 1613. So I've achieved one of my first goals, which was to break 1600. My next 2 goals, win 2 more games in a row and I have 10 straight. That would be a good goal for me. And also to break my best active rating, which is 1621. So I'm really close to that as well. And you can see my stats down here, like average opponent rating, which is slowly climbing, and my performance rating over these 16 games has been 1646. That's just calculated by this last column here, which is the average of all these numbers, and these numbers are simply 400 higher than my opponent's rating if I win, and 400 lower than my opponent's rating if I lose. I think that's the standard way to calculate performance rating. All right, so 20-minute time to start, and 20-minute increment per move. Seek issued. My formula, by the way, if you can look right here and see that, is my rating minus 150, so it has to be no lower than 150 lower than my rating, and then their rating has to be no more than 250 higher than my rating. So yesterday's game I got fairly quickly, and I was in the middle in the video of explaining all of that yesterday, and the game started, so I kind of had to stop and pay attention. Today, we'll see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and put this on top, and wait, I guess. So yesterday's game, I felt like at the time I played pretty badly, but I think a lot of that stemmed from hanging e4 early on. I did think, however, during yesterday's video, I wasn't talking as much. I think I might have played a little better. I don't know. It's a little bit kind of iffy. Today I'm going to concentrate during this video and in the game on the process of thinking through my moves. One weakness I notice is that I don't see things in the game that I would just almost instantly see in a tactics problem. So I've been practicing tactics in a way that is supposed to, in my mind, translate over to game situations, which means whenever a position arises, which one arises every single move in a chess game, I want to quickly assess some features of the position. Things like whether or not there are any what I call loose pieces, files, diagonals, or squares of note, and if there's any air around the king that can be exploited, trapped pieces and things like that. Those kinds of features that would play into tactics. Each time a move happens, I'm going to try to assess them fairly consistently. Obviously, time can come into that, and I may not be able to do it every time. At some point, the opening will be over, or at least be far enough advanced where some of those features are going to start to take place and start to grow in importance. So one of the things that I may have trouble doing is transitioning from an opening mindset into a assessing the position mindset. Theoretically, you'd be able to do that. All right, we've got this guy's a much higher rated player than I am, and I say that's only 100 points, so just do the best I can. We have a Sicilian, so I am going to play my normal open Sicilian. Oh, he's talking to me, so I better respond. Oh, okay, whatever. It wasn't him. And now I'm going to play d4. Alright, immediately I have a diagonal to take note of here. Now it's not always going to be there, and there's going to be all kinds of things that can get in the way of it. But it's there, and I want to start taking notice of it. So I'm going to try to concentrate on those kinds of positional things. Features of the position. Alright, feature of this position is that I have e4 hanging. So I have to do something about e4. This opening, typically I play knight c3. It is possible, however, to play bishop d3. and maybe later play c4. In these lines, I don't play c4 nearly as often, mainly because the opponent can counterattack in the center pretty easily and is generally got that option open. So I'm going to play knight c3 here. All right, nothing else of note in his position yet. Some ways, okay, this generally leads to things like b5. So, not anything I want to necessarily worry about, but it does mean I'll probably be castling kingside here. I can go into sort of a Grand Prix sort of a setup with f4. He doesn't have anything to really get along this dark square diagonal right now, so I think f4 would be fairly safe. I generally would prefer to play my light square bishop out somewhere first. Probably d3. There's no attack on my d4 knight right now. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking bishop d3, and he could play d5. That would mean I would need to play probably, well, I don't know. I'm not planning on going queenside, so I could play bishop d3. He plays d5, e5. I could go knight b3, and I think I'm happy there. And then I could start playing for f5 and some, or f4 and some kingside stuff. So in my mind, my move is bishop d3. Now at this point, my d4 knight becomes a little loose. I have to watch for tricks on that. Obviously, he's probably just going to kick it with e5, and that'd be fine with me. If he does, I'm going to go knight b3, simply because it allows me to look into some kingside stuff that I want to look into. Now, if I do this f4 thing, my dark square bishop is probably going to become a pretty important piece, just because of this diagonal. Although, more likely, in this setup, I would assume that the bishop is going to be on g7. Just because this d6 pawn is kind of in the way of coming out here to c5. But still, it's a piece I want to hang on to. I don't want to just throw it away unless I can get it in a clean exchange for his dark square bishop. I've kind of modified my color scheme. If you can't tell, it's not that drab blue anymore. It's kind of this drab olivey, greenish yellow kind of a thing. It's a modification of the Windboard color scheme. What I did was kind of took the halfway point between the two. Just I like less contrast than the Windboard colors have. And here comes bishop g7. So is there anything noteworthy in this position before I move on? It doesn't look like it. You've got that same light square diagonal, but there isn't really any way to exploit that I can see. So my thought here is castle, and then find a place for my dark square bishop to move to. He still hasn't done anything to make my knight move away, so I'm going to leave him there. This is probably a standard Sicilian line. I don't know the Sicilian lines. Now here he has done something to make my knight on d4 a little more nervous than he was a second ago. So I'm probably going to play knight b3. The feature now is the diagonal that I need to take note of here for tactics. The diagonal here is noteworthy because the bishop is lined up on the same square as an undefended piece. Now, I don't think there's any tactics here, merely because something like knight e3, and even if I just take it and he takes here, there could be something like a discovery with the queen. I'm not going to calculate all that. It might work out, it might not, but I'm moving anyway. I'm moving the knight anyway. So one other possibility would be to play bishop e3, which after I play f4 would be a little bit loose, but nothing to worry about, I don't think. So what would be the downside of knight b3? I don't think there's really much downside. It stays out of the way of f4. So if I play knight b3, then he's going to know I'm going to play f4. But I think that's okay. f4 is going to eye that e5 square and kind of maybe discourage him from playing e5. Even if he does play, if I go knight b3, e5, f4, he takes, and I've got a nice bishop here. And an open f file. So I'm going to play knight b3. My dark square bishop might be good on d2 for now. It might also be good... You know, I might also play f3 here instead of f4. One possibility would be developing the bishop along this diagonal, maybe even to h6, and getting rid of his dark square bishop, which is going to be pretty strong, I think. So d2 would be a little bit inflexible on as far as that plan is concerned. I'm not sure I want to do it anyway. I think f4 might be a better plan, but this is kind of a crossroads for me. I need to decide whether I'm going to play f4 or if I'm going to play for bishop h6. The problem with bishop h6 is I think I haven't been moving towards that, so he can probably stop it pretty easily. f4 leaves behind the g4 square, so this bishop can come down here and cause some trouble. But I think swapping that off would be okay for me, since it would be his good bishop and my bad bishop. So I think I'm going to play f4 here. Now, one thing about f4 already is that it leaves this diagonal very vulnerable. It might be better to play h1 first, king h1 first, or it might be okay to just ignore that. I can't even interpose my bishop here. It might be better to play bishop e3 first, actually. And then that might leave me some flexibility for queen d2. So bishop e3, knight g4. And then what, I just retreat it and play h3. I'm not sure I want to do that. f3 might be what I decide on here. No, because that leaves the same diagonal vulnerable. Let's go ahead and go bishop e3. And if he plays knight g4, still not sure. Still not sure. Do I really care about queen b6? I just play king h1 and I move on. He gets a free development move, but king h1 would be necessary anyway, probably at some point, so I'm going to go ahead and play f4. I think I'm just jumping at shadows. Now, queen b6, I will play king h1 90%. I can't see, you know, rook f2 isn't going to help anything. But, you know, I fully expect queen b6. I'm just not sure it's anything to worry about. Now, if he doesn't play queen b6, I'll probably play bishop e3 just to get that thing out there. Well, will I? Because I'm still going to have that same knight g5 thing going. And now I don't want to play h3 because my kingside will be weakened considerably. Alright, so assessing features. We don't have any loose pieces other than the a8 rook. Everything else is defended. So it's a nice setup. All of my pieces are defended, except for, yeah, even the a1 rook is defended by the knight. Alright, that seems fine. We still have the undefended rook. There's no real way to line up on that diagonal. He's taking a look at e5 here also. So here, the g4 square is a little bit too weak for me. So g4 square is a weakness. This diagonal is a weakness for me. I need to take care of both of those. I might also have plans like queen e1 and queen h4. But I think before I need to do any of that, I need to play king h1. Or huh. I'm trying to decide if there's any way to play e5 here, and I don't think there is. He has two defenders on it, and I only have one. So I don't want to play e5 necessarily, but I was just looking at it, and he has even another potential piece attacking it. So king h1, queen e1, that kind of stuff is what I'm looking at. All right, king h1 it is. Now there isn't necessarily a reason to develop this bishop. As one of my friends says, the bishop is fully developed on c1 in these types of positions. We are looking at the h6 square, and we're looking at maybe the possibility of rook f3 to h3 someday. Right now, of course. Maybe trading off that piece and then looking at that. And then queen e1 over to h4. These are some kind of attacking ideas I have. Could also play f5. I'll tell you what, let's do next. Try the next move to play queen e1. I'm looking at queen e1, queen h4, f5. At this point, his queen is undefended. That's something to take note of. So I'm going to go queen e1. And we're looking at the h4 square here. You kind of like this knight on b3 because it keeps him out of whatever that square is, d4. Now I'm looking at why he would be interested in that bishop. I'm not terribly concerned with that bishop. However, I'm looking now at something like knight b5 to see if there's anything to do with that, because we have some tactics possible here. Knight b5 attacking the queen. Queen moves probably to here, and then what? I don't see anything right away. Are there any other pieces could attack? Knight c5 doesn't look very good. So what I'm going to do now, I think, is just go ahead and play queen h4 and ignore this weird idea that's just going to bolster my center. But because he doesn't have any other threats with that. All right, queen h4. Now if he wants to play knight takes d3, I just play c takes d3. This knight on b3 also looks at the a1 rook in addition to d4. It's not the most useful piece in the world, but it's not completely useless over there. Not that there's any reason to keep an eye on a1, but yeah. Pause for effect, I guess, here, but I mean, I'm playing c takes d3. Someday I could maybe look at accessing the c file, especially if his queen is still there. But man, I'm playing f5 here coming up. Seems like this plan might be a little slow without my knight over there, but I can get my knight moving. Knight e2 to g3, for instance. Knight d2 to f3. It'll take 2 moves each to get my knights into the game, but it's something that can happen. This doesn't necessarily have to be a hugely light speed attack, I don't think. What I'm worried about is him finding a way to stop me from playing f5. If he gets in f5, then I have nothing. So if we were to play knight g4 right now, for instance, right now I would just ignore it and play f5, I think. Just because there's nowhere to go from g4. Almost any knight move, I immediately play f5. As long as his knight is on f6, I can take time. I think that that's the key. But when his knight moves off of f6, it's got to be f5 right then, or I lose the chance. And that's a lesson I've learned in this sort of an attack. You've got to take f5 when it's there. If he plays f5, then the whole thing gets locked down. That might be one reason why he wanted to trade off the light square bishop, was because of this diagonal. This just speeds up my attack, by the way, this b5. Because it's helping me to get one of my pieces back over to the king side. Or encouraging me to, let's say that. What about knight d5? Takes. Yeah, it just weakens an f5 push later. It does kind of remove a defender of the king side, but I don't think that that's something that I want to do right now, and it opens up his bishop, and we're going to have a problem on b2, so that's a bad idea. Anything I can do to improve my position before playing f5 or knight e2? Okay. I don't think either of us has any positional problems here. I've got a loose knight on e2, but it's well back. I wonder about something like bishop g4 here. Or just ignore it and move to knight g3 maybe. Or even knight d4 would be a nice central place, but oh wow. That seems odd, to say the least. He's attacking d3 and e2. Okay, so I need to just relax here and try to figure out what the best course of action is. Because right now there isn't a way to defend both pieces, I don't think. Therefore, the piece to save is the knight. Putting it on g3 might be okay, although we're going to run out of squares for the queen at that point, won't we? Might have been short-sighted to put that there. How about playing knight b to d4, and then when he takes on d3, what can I do? This might be ugly. I am not real sure what to do here, folks. That's looking like a better move than I anticipated. Okay, so knight bd4. He takes on d3. I need to save what? The e4 pawn, which is going to be a... yeah, ooh, that's going to be nasty, nasty. What about trapping his queen if he takes on e2? I mean, I could maybe save d4 by pushing it. He takes on e2, and he can always get out to h5, so that's not going to work. Well, folks, looks like we might have to move it back to c3. Then he takes, and I play rook d1. So let's look at that line. Knight d4, queen takes, rook d1. Where does the queen go? Pretty much wherever it wants, but it can't take on e4. The knight can't take because I would take the queen. So I think that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm not seeing a better line. Wait, that's not what I said. This, sorry. Yeah. Knight c3. So if you play knight c3 and then b4, what do I do? Do I have a counterattack on e4 maybe? e5? So e5 takes. No, I don't. Alright. I've got to do that and then figure things out. So he's going to take d3, and I need to fairly quickly play rook d1. I mean, not quickly. It doesn't have to be quickly, but you know what I mean. And he'll probably have to move to c4. Now, if he plays b4 now, what do I do? I think I'm going to have to attack the queen with, like, knight d4, which may even trap it. Right. So here he's going to play c4. Fine. Is there any trapping on d4? It doesn't look like it. So you can always back up. Okay, so I'm thinking about my undefended queen over here. e5 just takes, and I can't take it back. So that's not in the cards. Something like rook d4 is bad because of mate on f1. So what else is there? Sacrificing these pawns for some nebulous attack that's not there? Probably. How about knight a5? Knight a5 seems kind of strange, but at least it keeps the queen on the run and buys me a little time to deal with e4, which I'm going to have. If I can get him away from e4 with the queen, this may be survivable. I don't know. I'd like to connect my rooks so I don't have the back rank weakness quite as badly. It looks like I'm going to succeed in getting him away from e4 with the queen. But at quite a cost, honestly, quite a cost. If he just goes to c5, I can't develop my bishop to e3, which I'd like to. All right. I'll just come back to b3. I'm not 100% sure what I should do. Just honestly. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? I mean, b4 seems really silly. But maybe it's not. Would stop his b4 ideas. Would keep him out of c5. And then I could come back underneath it at b3 if I needed to. Would it be a potential target? Oh, and it's going to have this diagonal. Yay. Don't want to do that. So let's just bring him back to b3. And hopefully, maybe we can get a repetition draw. No, I was just kidding on that. But I don't know what else to do, honestly. So, I mean, his position's very good here. Mine's very bad, I would say, altogether. But we're going to fight as hard as we can. Hard as we can. Okay. Seems like knight d5 takes, and maybe take with the rook. And then we're inviting some back row trouble, but I don't see how I can exploit it right now. And then I just come back to the first rank. Would relieve a little pressure on e4 that way, wouldn't I? So he has to take. I mean, I'm threatening e7, I think. No, I'm actually not. That's fine. I need to preserve the pawns in the center, I think. Just down a pawn here for no compensation. Well, for a bad position, I guess. Bishop b7. And I don't have a way to defend that. Well, no, I don't. Yeah, actually I was attacking e7 there, wasn't I? Because the queen kind of missed that. It's pretty hopeless here. I think bishop b7, and what do I do? You know? Even queen c6 is probably pretty good. Yeah, he's just threatening to come back here and then win the pawn anyway. So I could probably defend both with queen e1 and then just regroup. But that's probably good in the short term. Could I actually defend both with... No, I can't. So let's just move back to queen e1. Then he's going to play bishop b7, and we'll see. Bishop b7, I might be able to play something like knight d2. I don't know. Bishop b7 looked a lot clearer than queen c4. He might have um, gotten in his own way here. Strongly considering knight d2 here. Knight d2, bishop takes, knight takes, bishop takes. Looks fine for me. Knight d2, queen where? Well, out of here, because there's no good squares inside of here. So this will preserve an extra pawn for me. Okay, so there's no real way to get at his loose bishop. There's no good way to get at his loose queen. Where's he going to take it? He's going to take it back here? I mean, where else is he going to take it? There's nowhere down here. Well, there's a little hole on c2 he could try to stick his nose in, but is that something that you would really want to do? Seems odd. Again, it seems odd. It looked odd the last time he did it, and it might still be odd, or it might be really good. I'm not sure. Seems annoying right now. Well, it would do the same thing, wouldn't it? Yep. Does the same thing. It attacks e4. So that's just a move I can't find if I'm playing. I cannot find that move. I found it for him, but man, if I'm playing, I just can't see how I would ever find that move. It's just an odd move. Okay, so kind of in some trouble here. In fact, is the rook completely trapped? No, it can get out over on g5 or something, or even a5. It can get out on the 5th rank. It's obviously not going to get to d3 anytime soon, so we're going to have to get it out on the 5th rank. Now what's better, g5 or a5? I don't think either one is any good. This is just awful. I mean, good grief. What am I supposed to do here? Can I work on maybe trying to trap the queen instead of trying to get the rook out? No. Just not seeing what to do here. Looks like g5 is a little bit more flexible because I can come down to g3 and slide across if I need to. So, bishop e4. Try to attack the queen somehow to... Actually, no, bishop e4 doesn't work, does it? It's defended twice. So this is fine. Actually, I just kind of was panicking over nothing. I mean, the position is plenty panic-worthy, don't get me wrong, but I had it defended twice. So that's cool. He can build up at his leisure here with, you know, rook c8 or whatever. We're just kind of being held together with toothpicks here, and his position's very solid. I'd take his position over mine 100 days out of 100. Plus him down a pawn. So, I mean, probably rook g3 next. Just try to get a defender over here of some sort. Maybe I can pull it over here to b3. I mean, he just plays a5, I guess. Yeah, it seems obvious to me that he'd want to do that. Although I don't think it does anything on the surface. I just don't think there's a lot to do with that. So I'm going to play over here fairly quickly because my time is an issue and it's just going to get worse. So And to get it rolling over here, you know, I can maybe put another defender on e4. There isn't really a good entry point beyond c5 for his rook. c4 is defended. c3 is defended. So he can go to c5 and then double again on the c file, or triple on the c file, I guess. Just hold on the best we can, and maybe he'll miss a tactic and I'll jump back in. You never know. It could happen. More likely for me to miss a tactic, obviously. It's chess, you know. It's hard. You do the best you can, and that's all you can do. Dum-de-dum. So, I mean, I just don't know of a good square for my rook over here. That b4 pawn is in the way of coming to c3, which would be really nice. Yeah, he just wants to triple now. My queen is pinned to the back row because of the back row threat on d1. All my pieces are kind of paralyzed, so he can just develop at leisure. Both of these pieces are a little loose. If I could get my queen to right there, that would be interesting at least. No, the queen defends there, so that's not that great. I don't know. I just don't know what to do, really. But h3 and king h2 free things up a little bit, maybe, but jeez, I mean, I don't want that to be any weaker than it is. So, finding an active plan here is an adventure. What about a3 to try to free up the rook for this file? Which isn't really free anyway. Well, maybe it is. Let's go here for now. Just because I have to do something. So I'm going to do this. It's going to play here, then maybe a3? Well, no, a3 would lose the rook then. But this defends b2, which has been a little bit of a soft spot anyway. I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, if eventually I'm going to run out of moves and just resign. I don't know. You think he could make this whole house of cards fall somehow, but he hasn't done it yet, so we'll just hold off. And maybe I could move my rook off the a1 diagonal, a1 h8 diagonal, by moving to b8 as long as that knight is there. Give another defender to b1 in case I need to. You know, because a5 and a4 are coming. I would assume they're coming anyway. I just have to move my rook back to g3. But at some point I can play rook b1 and I don't lose that b2 pawn. Right? I mean, that's pretty obvious to me. So now, can I maybe... I can't. I think what I have to do is play h3 just to give some room to my king. I mean, I really just think I have to. Okay, so if a4, I just slide over to rook g3. And then maybe he takes, but I can still come to b1. Or I can start swapping off pieces and just be down material. So I don't think that really does much. Now, though, I can get off of the back row. Or can I? Yeah, I can. So with this newfound freedom for my queen, what do I do? Nothing. Queen G1? Queen F2? Queen E3? I mean, I'm looking at this square. Everything's defended here, but it might cause a little bit of a headache here. I mean, this even defends the back row weakness, even if I had to H2 still there with Queen G1. Wouldn't be any fun, but I could do it.
Check.
Oh, I see. He's going to win C1, isn't he? Does Queen G1 stop that? Queen G1, and I have 1, 2 defenders. I see. Yeah, that's trouble, isn't it? Yeah, nice move. I guess that's going to do it, probably. Okay, so here I have to take, otherwise I just lose it. I'll let him checkmate me on H1, I guess. So, shouldn't really be taking this long, right? Play queen or rook C1. Yeah, I mean, I had to do something active, so at some point. Oh, he takes it with the queen. That's odd. That's really odd. Huh. I don't think I could take advantage of it or anything, but it's odd. Should I just resign? I think I'm just going to resign. I mean, I can't hold this together. I'm down a full piece. I was down a pawn already, and my position sucks. So I'm going to go ahead and resign and tell him thanks for the game. Yeah, I know. Get out of here. Say thanks for the game. Good luck. One player made 41 comments during my last game. That should be fun. I'm sure it was TJ, but that's cool. So let's copy this PGN, go over to Skid. Load my standard games database and paste it in. Import one PGN, kaboom, import, close. And add game, today's date, classify B98, whatever that is, and there we go. So here's the position from his perspective for some reason. There we go. And that's perspective that I just had. So, interesting game, and there's a Pizza Hut ad in my email. Interesting game. I should learn from it, especially the queen, what was it, C2 move that caught me so off guard. And I don't know. I guess I'll look over it and hopefully learn from it.